The art of swathing. This is something that we've learned through the years, and it's not something that you necessarily think about when you go out to swath. If you've ever cropped, then you just go out and you've just got to knock it down, and then your baler figures it out. But the thing about swathing for swath grazing versus swathing for baling or silaging is that the cows are not necessarily as smart as you, and you have to think about the fact that your swaths might get buried under snow, and then at that point the cows they need something that's easy to find under the snow. So the goal of the swathing, in my opinion, is to make pretty big swaths that kind of stand up on themselves, so that if they get buried under the snow, they'll stick up. And I found that the cows, if they can kind of see even just every 10 feet a little sprig standing up, then that helps them find it. And but you don't want to make too many piles, because then your manure distribution isn't as good. So it's a balancing act between getting enough volume and having enough space between your swaths. So double or single swathing, there's pros and cons to both. Then this is what I mean by double and single swathing. So just swathing one swath right down the middle, and then coming back on the opposite side, or doing a double where you come back and you match them up. You'll see most of what we've done out here when we go out is we've done double swaths, and that's just because I'm paranoid that it's going to snow and then they're not going to be able to find the swaths. But I think for most of the pastures we could have, some of them we could have single swathed, especially because we're swath grazing earlier this year than we normally would. And then there's one pasture I'm not sure if we'll get to, but we should have done single swaths. The double swaths are just too much. We're not going to have ideal manure distribution, but it's not the end of the world. It's just not ideal. The pros for double swaths are that it's easy for cows to dig out of the snow. So what you'll find is that cows, it does take energy for them to dig the snow out, or dig the swaths out of the snow. Also, to find them, we've done single swaths, and they'll dig out every other one, or they'll dig out ones that are easy, especially when the snow gets deep. So if you make it less work for them and make it easier for them, then it'll be easier for them. And it's also very beneficial if you have a low volume that year to double them up, just because, again, less digging. And also when you make a swath, it's the bottom stuff, it gets kind of wet and it's not as desirable. It's also harder to dig out of the ground if it gets frozen on there. So if you kind of can double it up, then, and if you can, especially if you can layer it on top, then it'll kind of preserve that. If you double swath, and like I said, if you give them too much, then they'll walk all over it, and they probably won't utilize the stuff that they've walked on, and especially if they spread manure on it. And also you get less distribution of the manure. It's not the end of the world if you get less distribution of the manure. What we've done is that in other years we try to keep track of where we started swathing, and then we'll start either on the other side of the field, start swathing, so that there will be kind of alternate layers, alternate rows of manure. It takes a little bit of forethought, but you can definitely do it, and it works quite well. We tried oats at 90 pounds an acre, and what we found is that the stems get so coarse that they're not very palatable, and they don't want to eat them. So then we moved to doing oats at 120 pounds an acre, and that we found that makes the stems a lot finer and it's more palatable to them. So seeded at a higher rate, and it becomes more palatable. Then we moved to mixing oats and barley, doing that at about 110 pounds an acre, and because it's mixed, they don't take as much time to sort it out, and they'll consume more of the oat stems. So that was an advantage over just the straight oats. This year we couldn't get barley, so we did some straight oats again. We've also done oats at 120 pounds an acre, and then triticale. This was we did an on-farm experiment. We did oats in one swath. It might have been oats and barley, I can't remember, or oats. And then we did triticale, and we thought we were very clever and did kind of this Latin square kind of thing. But the problem was the triticale, although it's highly nutritious, is not nearly as palatable as the oats and the barley. So they would eat the oats and barley swaths and then complain because they didn't have more oats and barley swaths. So we ended up wasting quite a bit of triticale that year. And we tried to push them on it, but they just got skinny. So, and then we've done fields just straight triticale, and if you give them just straight triticale and don't give them a choice, then they just think it's great because they don't have any more grass. So,
so we talk about trying to find the right variety. As I said earlier, we've used the barley varieties. We've grazed over the years. Ranger barley, which is a smooth on. To think about that in terms of lumpy jaw or something like that, getting those abscesses in the mouth. We've used Copeland, and this year we're using Mustang. So you kind of work with a variety that you think is going to work for you. Smooth on variety is pretty good as well. We're seeing that triticale is being grazed out here at the Barquet, and that's great. Triticale by itself, we heard also, is don't give them a choice, just have them graze straight triticale.
one of the reasons we went to triticale is because we had heard that it retains its quality a little bit better in the swaths, and I don't know if that's true enough to really be of concern, but if we plant this early and then we have to swath it early, then we're just worried about degradation of quality over time. So we've actually got somewhere around here, I asked the swather to take some of these oats out and put them beside, and we're going to do a little bit of experiment, see how fast the quality goes down.